The Bretton Woods Conference was a historic meeting that took place in the summer of 1944 in New Hampshire, United States. It was attended by representatives from all 44 allied nations, who gathered to lay the groundwork for the international financial system that would follow the end of World War II. The conference marked a turning point in the history of international monetary and financial relations and had far-reaching consequences that continue to influence the global economy to this day. The idea behind the conference was to create an environment in which countries could trade with each other in a stable and predictable manner, thereby promoting economic growth and stability. The resulting agreement, known as the Bretton Woods Agreement, established the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD, which later became known as the World Bank. The IMF was tasked with ensuring the stability of exchange rates and promoting international monetary cooperation, while the World Bank was established to provide financing for the reconstruction of war-torn countries and to promote economic development. The Bretton Woods Agreement also established a new international monetary system, based on the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. The US dollar was tied to gold at a fixed rate of $35 per ounce, and other currencies were pegged to the US dollar, creating a system of fixed exchange rates. This provided stability for international trade and investment, as countries knew that the value of their currency would not fluctuate wildly from one day to the next. One of the key objectives of the Bretton Woods Conference was to prevent a repeat of the monetary chaos that had characterized the interwar period, when countries engaged in competitive devaluations and currency instability. By establishing a system of fixed exchange rates, the Bretton Woods Agreement aimed to promote stability and reduce the risk of currency wars. In this sense, the agreement was a success, as it helped to ensure relative currency stability for more than 2 decades. However, as the global economy evolved, the fixed exchange rate system became increasingly unsustainable. In particular, the US struggled to maintain the fixed exchange rate between the dollar and gold, as the increasing costs of the Vietnam War and rising inflation put pressure on the US economy. In 1971, President Nixon suspended the convertibility of the US dollar into gold, effectively ending the Bretton Woods Agreement and marking the transition to a system of floating exchange rates. The Bretton Woods Agreement was designed to promote stability and reduce the risk of currency wars, and it was largely successful in achieving these objectives for more than 2 decades. However, by the late 1960s, the fixed exchange rate system established at Bretton Woods was becoming increasingly unsustainable. A number of factors contributed to the breakdown of the Bretton Woods Agreement, but perhaps the most significant was the rising costs of the Vietnam War and the resulting inflation in the United States. These factors put immense pressure on the US economy, making it increasingly difficult for the country to maintain the fixed exchange rate between the US dollar and gold. The US was also facing a growing trade deficit, as imports continued to outstrip exports. This was in part due to the increasing competitiveness of other countries and the declining competitiveness of US industries. The US trade deficit put further pressure on the US dollar, making it increasingly difficult for the US to maintain the fixed exchange rate system. In addition to the economic pressures facing the US, there were also political factors that contributed to the breakdown of the Bretton Woods Agreement. The US was facing growing competition from other countries, particularly in Europe and Japan, which were recovering rapidly from the effects of World War II. These countries were increasingly challenging the US for economic and political dominance, and the US was losing its ability to dictate the terms of the international monetary and financial system. The combination of economic and political factors created a situation in which the US could no longer sustain the fixed exchange rate system established at Bretton Woods. In August 1971, President Nixon announced that the US would no longer convert dollars into gold at the fixed rate of $35 per ounce. This decision effectively ended the Bretton Woods Agreement and marked the transition to a system of floating exchange rates. The transition to a floating exchange rate system was not without its challenges. The breaking of the Bretton Woods Agreement created uncertainty and instability in the global financial system, as countries adjusted to the new reality of fluctuating exchange rates. In some cases, this led to periods of high inflation and currency devaluation, which had far-reaching consequences for the global economy. However, over time, the floating exchange rate system established after the breakdown of Bretton Woods proved to be more flexible and adaptable than the fixed exchange rate system. The ability of currencies to fluctuate in response to changing economic conditions allowed countries to respond more effectively to economic shocks and to pursue more independent monetary policies. Despite its eventual collapse, the Bretton Woods Agreement had a lasting impact on the global economy. The IMF and World Bank, established as a result of the conference, continue to play key roles in promoting economic stability and development around the world. Furthermore, the concept of fixed exchange rates, although no longer in practice, continues to influence the thinking of policymakers and economists, and the lessons of Bretton Woods continue to shape our understanding of the global financial system. The Bretton Woods Conference was a seminal moment in the history of international monetary and financial relations, marking the transition from a world torn by economic instability and conflict to a more stable and predictable global economy. Although the specific mechanisms established at Bretton Woods have since been abandoned, the ideas and institutions born of the conference continue to shape the global financial landscape to this day. This is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as financial advice. The information provided is not intended to be a substitute for professional financial advice. Please consult a financial professional before making any financial decisions. Please comment, like and subscribe.